I'm not hauling your child along. He'll ruin my car completely. Out you go, Ellie yelled, pushing Miles and me aside. She basically hurled us onto the roadside, inches from the zooming vehicles. My spouse, Jason, remained seated, facing away quietly without uttering a sound. That evening, upon their eventual arrival home, a shocking scene would leave them stunned in disbelief. Simone Dixon stirred awake at 6:30 a.m. to the persistent drip of the kitchen tap. Beyond her two-bedroom flat in downtown, dawn was barely breaking. She yawned and felt for the vacant spot beside her. Jason had departed for the factory already. As a mechanic, he rotated through 3 shifts and pulled the morning one this time. From the children's bedroom came rustling and soft voices. Her 6-year-old Miles was up and tinkering with his building kit. The boy had picked up her passion for precise sciences and could lose track of time piecing together intricate robot or spaceship designs. Simone rose, slipped into her robe, and headed to the kitchen. The place had come from her grandmother Rosa 3 years prior. The elderly lady had spent her career as a mathematics instructor at a nearby tech college and saved enough to buy property right in the urban core. Inheriting it brought Simone a sense of stability. At last, she and Miles possessed a proper residence. She set the kettle boiling and peered into the fridge. A message from Jason rested inside. "Darling, grab the sausages for my meal. Won't make it back early. Mom needs a hand shifting some pieces. Hugs. Jay." Simone's brow furrowed. Lately, her mother-in-law, Eleanor, had been claiming more of Jason's time. It was constantly one thing or another. Hauling a bulky cabinet, repairing a dripping pipe, or heading to her retreat to fetch spuds. Jason couldn't refuse his mom, even if it clashed with their couple's outings. "Mommy, where's Dad Jason?" Miles inquired, padding into the kitchen with tousled locks and gripping a complete robot creation. "Working, honey. Fancy an omelet." "Sure. Can I demonstrate the robot you're cooking method?" Simone grinned. Miles enjoyed crafting tales around his robots and chatting with them like actual pals. Following the split from his real dad, it had taken the kid some adjustment to warm to the fresh guy at home. Yet Jason proved steadfast and gradually stepped into a paternal role. As her boy munched on breakfast, Simone prepped for her shift. Instructing English at the elite Hamilton Academy provided solid pay, far better than the state education setup. The principal appreciated her dedication and skill with challenging adolescents. The school day unfolded routinely. Simone led 6 sessions, reviewed assignments, and lingered past 7 p.m. for a meeting with parents. Returning home at last, she spotted the lights glowing, though silence reigned. "Miles, Mommy's back," she announced, slipping off her footwear in the foyer. "Mom, we're in here," he replied from the lounge. Simone entered to find Miles on the rug before the TV. Eleanor sat nearby. Her in-law sported her usual brown trouser outfit. The style of her hair stayed the same after 15 years. "Hi, Simone," Eleanor acknowledged her briskly, eyes fixed on the display. "Evening, Jason around." "He's in the bath. We'd spent the day rearranging items." "My lad's worn out." Simone bristled inwardly at the phrase "my lad," but held her tongue. Ellie frequently treated her 30-year-old offspring like a tween. "Mom, Grandma Ellie mentioned her cells busted," Miles shared, fixated on the animated show. "Indeed, can you believe it?" Her mother-in-law exhaled dramatically. "It quit entirely, won't power up, and it's essential for my job, the digital till. Operations depend on the application these days." Simone acknowledged with a nod and moved to the kitchen to warm the meal. Moments later, Jason emerged, clean from bathing, in lounge pants and a tee. "Hi, babe." He pecked her cheek. "School okay?" "All right, but exhausted. Furniture shift goes smoothly." "Flawlessly." Mom aimed to reposition the armchair in the opposite spot, so we tackled it from dawn. They shared supper as a trio. Ellie passed on eating, insisting on her regimen. Once finished, the in-law departed for her spot, and Jason aided Miles in constructing a fresh playing kit. The following morning, Simone chose to launder Jason's coat, marked from the prior day's labor. Before loading it into the washer, she patted the pockets and sensed a rustle. Fishing out a creased note, she unfolded it. A bill from the gadget shop revealed a top-tier phone costing $1,200 purchased the day before. Simone's stomach dropped. $1,200. That drained their entire fund for Miles's seaside getaway during summer. The child had anticipated it for 6 months. That evening, once Miles had settled into sleep, as bedtime approached for little Miles, Simone pulled out the receipt and held it up to Jason. "Where on earth did this come from?" she asked. Jason's cheeks turned red and he averted his gaze. "I meant to mention it before you found out about Mom. She desperately needed a new phone for her job. The old one's totally broken. She couldn't even log off after her shifts. For $1,200? Jason, we could have grabbed a decent basic phone for just $600. Well, she insisted on this model. She claims the budget ones fail quickly, and this should hold up for a good 5 years at least." "That was supposed to be Miles's trip fund," Simone pointed out. "I get it, sweetie, but Mom bends over backward for us. She looks after our boy whenever we're running behind. She whips up meals on Saturdays and Sundays. She earned a thoughtful present like this." Simone studied her spouse and realized pushing back wouldn't get anywhere. Jason could always drum up an excuse for whatever his mom did. And truthfully, Ellie did pitch in with Miles now and then, even if she made it seem like a massive burden every time. "We'll make it to the beach for sure next summer," Jason assured her. "I'll pick up overtime shifts." A few days later, Simone linked up with her old college buddy Naomi at a coffee shop close to the school. They'd been tight for years, and Naomi ranked among the handful Simone could really open up to. "You seem totally checked out," Naomi observed, swirling sweetener into her latte. "Spill, what's eating you?" Simone recounted the whole mess with the phone and how it wrecked their getaway plans. Naomi paid close attention, then knitted her brows. "Hold up, have you heard what your mother-in-law's been saying behind your back?" "What are you talking about? My neighbor's in the same supermarket as her. Word is Ellie badmouths you to anybody who'll listen. Calls you a money grubber who got knocked up by some other guy to snag support payments, then snagged her boy in the process." Simone's face heated up. "She actually says that." "Oh yeah, and she goes on about how you hooked him with the lease too. That he only tied the knot for the roof over your head, and now you're bleeding him dry. She insists the boy's not his, that you're selfish and blocking her from getting cash from her own son." Simone went rigid in her seat, gripping her mug tightly. So Ellie didn't just tolerate her grudgingly. She was deliberately smearing her reputation, and it sounded like a calculated effort that had dragged on for ages. "Did you mention this to Jason?" "I dropped some subtle clues, but he brushes it off. Says Mom's just anxious for him, so she blurts out odd stuff sometimes." Back at the house, Simone attempted a serious chat with her husband about the rumors. "Jason, she's spreading lies to total strangers that Miles isn't yours biologically. And yeah, we all know that. But you treat him like your own. Can't you see? She's turning folks against me." "Cut it out, Simone," Jason snapped, his tone sharpening. "You blow everything out of proportion. Mom's getting on in years and on her own. I'm all she's got. You seriously expect me to ditch her?" The talk fizzled into nothing. Jason stepped out to the terrace for a cigarette, while Simone crawled into bed overwhelmed by isolation. The next couple of weeks felt strained. Jason began hanging out more at his mom's place, and whenever he returned, he acted withdrawn and snappy. Simone threw herself into her job and doting on her son, doing her best to sidestep the household drama. One weekend morning, Jason declared he was heading over to Ellie's again. Simone, despite herself, probed further. "We're aiming to bring Miles to the playground. Mom's got some urgent stuff. She's eyeing a vehicle." "What kind of vehicle?" "You know, she made up her mind to get a car. The buses are wearing her out." A chill settled over Simone. How's she affording that? Her cashier gig only pulls in $2,000 monthly. "She'll finance it. I'll chip in for the initial amount." "Chip in from where, Jason? We're tapped out after the phone." "We'll manage. More shifts for me." Come Monday, Simone stumbled onto the fax accidentally. Miles had a bug, so she swung by the doctor's for an excuse note. Waiting in front of her was a lady chattering away on her cell about financing and rides. Get this, my neighbor snagged a set of wheels. She went through the lot for the loan, and her boy's on it as the guarantor. He promised to cover if she flakes. Simone's chest tightened. Was it possible Jason had guaranteed his mom's loan behind her back? That evening, she cornered him outright. Jason sidestepped at first, but eventually admitted it. Yeah, I signed on. What's the issue? Mom's reliable. She'll handle the payments. Don't you get it? If she misses even one, we're on the hook for it. She won't miss. She's always been solid with money. Jason, this is huge. You needed to run it by me first. There you go again, Jason burst out. Mom shouldered it all after Dad bailed. She merits the support, even if it costs us. Who's going to step up for their folks if not us? Simone saw she was cornered. Jason kept deciding solo, acting like it was inevitable, and Ellie always won out, no matter the hit to their finances. Days later, a gleaming crimson pre-owned SUV rolled into their lot. Ellie had gone for a 5-year-old model in solid condition. The deal came to a $15,000 loan at $250 a month. Nice ride you've got there, Simone said politely when her mother-in-law dropped by to flaunt it. Naturally, Ellie shot back. She boasted with pride. I've always wanted my very own vehicle. At least now I won't have to cram onto the bus amid all the lowlifes. Miles eyed the automobile curiously, but when he requested to hop into the driver's spot, his grandma snapped a firm no. Kids have no business inside vehicles. They'll wreck or smear something. That same evening, Simone tallied up the household budget. The $250 installment, on top of coverage, fuel, and upkeep, devoured almost 50% of Jason's paycheck. Her ideas for fixing up the flat and stashing cash for a getaway got shoved aside for good. A few weeks on, Miles's woes kicked off. It started with him griping about tummy pain post-morning meal. Simone figured he was just dodging daycare and brushed it off. Yet come evening, the kid took a turn for the worse. His temperature spiked and the discomfort ramped up. Through the night, Miles hardly rested, wriggling restlessly and letting out sobs. Come dawn, Simone rang their family doctor. The veteran practitioner, a seasoned lady, gave the child a thorough check, pressed on his belly, noted his 101, 3-grain fever, and checked his heartbeat. This seems like sudden appendicitis, she announced, slipping off her listening tool. Head straight to the medical center without delay. Got a ride? Nope, Simone answered. In that case, dial emergency services or beg a lift from somebody. Aim for the pediatric surgery unit at Regional Children's Hospital. No time to waste. Simone escorted the doc to the door and hurried back to her boy. Miles was sprawled out, ghostly white, lids shut, breaths faint. Mama, it stings, he murmured. Hang tight, honey. We're off to the clinic right now, and it'll ease up soon. She phoned Jason down at the factory. His boss promised to pass along the word, though Jason was locked in his shift till dusk. Waiting on sirens might drag on forever. The local clinic sat 30 miles beyond town limits. Hauling an ill-taught via public rides spelled trouble. Just one choice remained, Ellie and her shiny new wheels. Simone punched in her in-laws' contact, bracing for the uncomfortable chat. Hi, Ellie. Simone here. We've got an issue. She rattled off the details fast. A heavy quiet hung on the line's far side. So, what exactly are you after from me? The elder finally queried. Drive us over to the clinic. Miles is in bad shape. Why skip the ambulance? The doc advised against hanging back. We gotta move now. Yet another hush. All right, Ellie conceded, none too happily. Give me 30 minutes, but keep everything spotless. I won't have the little one messing up the upholstery. Simone swallowed a wave of irritation but bit her tongue. Priority 1, reaching medical help. She swiftly grabbed a sack with papers and fresh outfits for her son, then bundled Miles up. The lad could scarcely stay upright, sagging against her side. Bang on time, the crimson SUV rolled into the lot. Ellie stepped out and strode to the doorway, face twisted in distaste. "Where's the invalid?" Simone guided Miles onto the pavement. Her husband's mom sized up the grandson with a skeptical glare. "He doesn't seem all that poorly. Probably scarfed down too much frozen treat last day." "Suspected appendicitis, per the physician." These healers nowadays overhype everything. "Off to the ER for a mere cough," she grumbled under her breath, yet waved them aboard regardless. Simone eased her son onto the rear bench and slid in beside him. Ellie fired up the motor and eased from the space. "Hands off everything," she cautioned, glancing back via the mirror. "Brand new hide benches." Simone dipped her head, cradling Miles close. The child burned up and labored to draw air. She yearned to arrive at the facility ASAP. The ride inched along urban avenues. Ellie halted at each signal, yielded to every walker in sight, and kept stealing peeks at Miles through the glass. "No fogging the panes," she instructed him. "I had them polished fresh." Simone clenched her jaw. Each ticking second might jeopardize her boy's well-being, while her in-law fretted over the ride's pristine state. "Mind picking up the pace a bit," she ventured. "I'm no speed demon. This ride cost a bundle. I take it steady." Miles let out a soft cry and hugged his mom fiercer. His cheeks drained of color, shadows pooling beneath his gaze. They cleared the urban sprawl and merged onto the expressway bound for the district clinic. Simone tracked the distant signs, still 12 miles ahead. Ellie hugged the road at under 60 mph, despite the 90 mph cap. Abruptly, the vehicle braked and veered onto a rural lane. "What's this detour?" Simone fretted. "Estelle's place. She's a nursing pro and wise to ailments. We'll consult her up front." "Ellie, hospital bound. Now." The doc stressed emergency. "Modern medics slice you open for a tiny wheeze. Estelle's got decades under her belt, 40 years in the field. She'll sort the right call." Simone reeled at the words. Rather than rush her ailing kid to the operating pros, the older woman opted to detour to a pal's for input. "But it's wasting time, we're not losing a thing. Just a half-hour drive there and back, and we'll get a clear idea of what's ailing the kid." The red SUV jolted across the rural road's craters. Miles felt queasy from the bumpy journey and turned even whiter. "I'm queasy," the child murmured. "Hang in there, buddy. We'll arrive shortly." 10 minutes on, they pulled up to a 2-level private residence adorned with ornate detailing. Ellie stepped out and approached the entrance. "Remain in the vehicle. I'll wrap this up fast." Simone remained inside with her boy. Miles was draped over her knees, his breaths coming in faint gasps. His temperature had obviously climbed further. From the glass, Simone observed her mother-in-law chatting extensively with a sturdy lady wearing a vibrant scrub shirt. Estelle was detailing matters, waving her arms and gesturing at the vehicle. 30 minutes ticked by. Simone was on the verge of exiting and insisting they head to the medical center when Ellie at last came back. "What did Estelle conclude?" Simone inquired, hoping for a rational update. "Well, she believes it's likely merely a minor tummy trouble. Pop a tablet in him, and he'll recover enough to return home." Return home. They think it might be appendicitis. She's aware of that, but she claims that with appendicitis, the temp hits nearly 104 degrees, while his is just 101. 3. So, it's not that. Ellie fired up the engine and veered onto the highway. Yet rather than steering toward the clinic, she aimed for the urban area. "Are we heading home now? Why rush to the hospital if it's not appendicitis?" "Halt!" Simone nearly shouted. "U-turn? We're proceeding to the medical facility." "Don't yell in my vehicle," the mother-in-law snapped back. "You're stressing me out. Ellie, should anything befall Miles, he'll be all right. You administer a medication, brew some chamomile at the house, and done." Simone realized debate was pointless. Her mother-in-law showed zero willingness to detour to the hospital. She fished out her cell and attempted to contact Jason. Perhaps he could sway his mom. His line was unreachable. The plant jammed signals in the work areas. Next, Simone dialed emergency services. Hello, 911. We require an ambulance. Child possibly suffering appendicitis. Provide your location. Simone shared the address of the dwelling they were approaching. Help is en route. Anticipate about 40 minutes. Ellie overheard the exchange and frowned deeply. Why summon an ambulance? I explained we'd handle it domestically, since you wouldn't transport an ill youngster to a physician. I'm not declining. I'm merely shielding him from pointless interventions. Modern physicians just chase fees. They arrived at the residence in 20 minutes. Miles could hardly support himself. Simone gripped his limb and guided him to the doorway. Appreciate the lift, she told her mother-in-law. Right, whatever. Call a taxi next time and spare folks your trivial issues. Ellie sped away, and Simone ushered her son inside the flat, settling him on the couch. The youngster was utterly drained and voicing intense discomfort. The rescue vehicle showed up an hour afterward. The responder, a weary young fellow, swiftly assessed Miles. Why the delay? He demanded curtly. The symptoms scream acute appendicitis. You ought to have rushed him over right away. We attempted to... Simone started to clarify, but the responder cut her off. Hurry, we're rushing him to the OR directly. Miles got swiftly shifted onto the ambulance gurney. En route to the facility, Simone clasped his hand as the attendant set up an IV pain reliever. In the ER, the head nurse greeted them and escorted to the surgeon's chamber. Dr. Griffin, a fellow in his 50s with a focused look, checked the child and promptly scheduled the procedure. Acute appendicitis. A bit more delay, and peritonitis would have set in. You arrived precisely when needed. Miles was wheeled into surgery, leaving Simone to linger in the corridor. The procedure took 2 hours. Throughout, she strode anxiously to and fro, too restless to settle. At length, Dr. Griffin emerged. It proceeded smoothly. The appendix came out cleanly. The child will recover fully. Simone nearly burst into tears from gratitude. May I visit him? He's still sedated. Consciousness returns in a couple of hours. He'll remain under watch and recovery for a day, then transfer to a standard ward. As Miles dozed in post-op, Simone lingered in the facility's cafeteria, sipping warm tea. Her fingers trembled from the ordeal. A tad more weight, and the outcome might have been dire. The near miss stemmed entirely from Ellie's obstinacy, her conviction that she outsmarted physicians regarding her grandson's condition. Jason showed up late that evening. He appeared ashen and anxious. How's Miles faring? He queried, embracing his spouse. Surgery succeeded. The staff indicates discharge in roughly a week. What fortune? Mom mentioned you visited Estelle, and she deemed it minor. Simone stared at her partner in astonishment. Jason, your mom nearly triggered a catastrophe. She balked at driving us to the hospital and squandered precious time G. She was heading to visit her friend after all, with only good intentions in mind. She never wanted the child to endure avoidable pain. Good intentions. The physician warned that another delay might have led to peritonitis. Jason paused, then murmured hesitantly. Mom was concerned. Folks her age can slip up now and then. Simone recognized that her spouse would defend his mother yet again. Even at this critical juncture, with their boy's well-being hanging in the balance, he refused to acknowledge Ellie's reckless behavior. The following morning, Miles came around. He felt frail, yet the doctor assured them his progress was solid. Simone hardly strayed from his side, catching rest on a fold-out bed. Jason dropped by post-shift, but lingered only briefly. Ellie stayed away once more. On Saturday night, as Miles dozed off, Simone stepped into the corridor to breathe some fresh air. Nearby, by the window, 2 ladies were talking, and one seemed vaguely recognizable. Peering more intently, Simone spotted Estelle, her mother-in-law's confidant, the very person they'd consulted rather than rushing to medical help. I orchestrated the entire scheme on purpose, Estelle confided over the phone. Ellie's been scheming for weeks to oust the daughter-in-law. She figured the boy's sickness was the ideal opportunity to show Simone as an unfit parent, claim that her negligence nearly killed him. And guess what? She ended up summoning the paramedics herself. Estelle went on. Ellie's livid these days. The plot backfired. Simone had absorbed plenty. She slipped back into the room quietly and settled beside her slumbering child. It had all been calculated. Ellie had intentionally stalled them, steered them to her pal's place, and resisted the trip to the clinic. Her goal was for Miles's state to deteriorate further, allowing her to pin the blame on Simone for ignoring his needs. This woman, her husband's mother, was prepared to endanger her own grandchild's safety solely to shatter Simone's marriage and undermine Jason. A chilling realization pierced Simone's thoughts. Jason must have been aware of his mother's scheme. How else to account for his apathy amid the crisis? She gazed at her resting boy. With the dressing across his belly, Miles appeared utterly vulnerable. The medical team had noted the procedure happened just in the nick of time, but a bit more postponement might have caused permanent damage. Right then, Simone reached an unyielding choice. She and Miles would forge ahead independently. No Jason, no Ellie, no one ready to jeopardize a kid's vitality for personal grudges. The residence was hers by right. The funds in the bank were hers too. Her position at work was secure, her earnings sufficient. She could provide Miles with all he required. Jason was welcome to bunk with his mom, handle her bills, hear her gripes, and cater to her demands. But not with them. Simone fished out her cell and texted her pal Naomi. Simone? Naomi, I require your assistance. Urgent matter. Naomi. What occurred? Simone. Simone. I'm initiating divorce proceedings, evicting my husband from our home. Details tomorrow. Naomi. Understood. What do you need from me? Simone. Recommendations for a top attorney and a lock specialist to secure the doors. Naomi. Consider it handled. Stay strong. Simone pocketed her device and turned back to her son. A faint smile played on Miles's lips as he slept, likely lost in pleasant reveries, and it fell to her to turn those visions into their shared reality. Come morning, fresh starts awaited, free from deceit, free from shame, free from those who'd harm a child to serve their egos. Simone clasped Miles's fingers firmly. The youngster stirred not, but gripped her hand more snugly. First, though, she needed to endure the darkest stretch of her existence. At the hospital's entrance, Jason and Ellie awaited their arrival. Simone was taken aback. She hadn't shared the release details. We figured we'd collect you, Jason offered, enveloping his wife and child in an embrace. How did you learn about the discharge? I rang the ward, Ellie answered, eager to check on my grandson. Miles remained enfeebled from the procedure, shuffling with effort. The staff advised strict rest once home, plus a checkup in 7 days. I've got the vehicle ready, his grandmother announced. I'll handle the ride. Much appreciated, Simone responded, helping Miles into the rear. He looked ashen and voiced his fatigue. The journey lasted 30 minutes. Ellie navigated with caution, dodging potholes and dips. Feeling all right? She inquired, glancing at him via the mirror. Okay, he whispered back. Abruptly, queasiness hit Miles. His face drained of color as he latched onto Simone, then retched right there in the vehicle. She lunged for a sack but missed the chance. Mess stained the upholstery and carpet. Ellie braked hard curbside. What's this mess? She yelped, swiveling to face them. I mentioned he was queasy, Simone noted, dabbing at his lips with a tissue. It's expected post-op. Expected, Ellie bellowed. He's ruined my whole interior. She hopped out and flung the rear door wide. I'm done ferrying your brat. He'll wreck everything. Out you go. Ellie seized Simone's arm, attempting to haul her from the seat. Mom. Stop, Jason murmured, his voice soft and lacking any real force. I'm not stopping. This car's brand new with those fancy leather seats. I didn't sign up for a loan just for him. She jabbed a finger toward Miles, implying he'd ruin it all. Ellie yanked firmly on Simone's arm. Clutching her ill boy, Simone had no strength to fight back. Out! The mother-in-law bellowed. Jason! Simone shouted to her spouse. He sat slumped in the passenger seat, gaze fixed on the passing scenery outside, utterly mute. Ellie dragged Simone and her frail son from the vehicle, dumping them beside the bustling freeway. Miles could hardly stay upright, clinging to his mom for support. "Mommy, it's chilly," he murmured faintly. Simone shrugged off her coat in a flash and draped it over him. They lingered at the roadside's brink, while the crimson SUV sped off into the distance. 10 minutes passed before an ambulance en route to an emergency in a close-by area spotted them. Noticing the lady and her ailing kid stranded on the expressway, the EMT pulled over. "What went down?" "We were heading back from the clinic. He started feeling worse during the drive. They ditched us right here. They abandoned an ill kid on the interstate." The medic shook his head in disbelief. "Hop in. We'll drop you off in town." As they traveled, Simone resolved her path forward. She'd ensure no one ever wounded her boy like that again. Tomorrow, she'd initiate divorce proceedings and boot Jason from their place. No longer would toxic folks linger in their world, ready to injure Miles out of pure self-interest. "It'll all turn out fine soon," she murmured to her child. "Mommy swears it." Come morning, fresh from another hospital visit, Simone rose with sharpened resolve and steady determination. Miles dozed peacefully in his bedroom, mending after the surgery. Jason had slipped out for his job at first light, offering zero apology for the prior day's chaos. Simone grabbed her cell and dialed Antoine Gibson, a buddy from her university days. They'd shared classes in linguistics back then, though he'd switched to law studies post-sophomore year. These days, Antoine practiced at a top-tier agency, focusing on domestic legal matters. "Simone, this is unexpected, you holding up." Not really, Antoine. I could use your advice. I'm pushing for a split." "For real, I figured you two were solid." "We need to chat in person. It's pressing, today, if possible." "No problem. Swing by the office in roughly 2 hours." Simone handed Miles over to the kindly elderly neighbor, who frequently assisted with him. The kid remained feeble and nodded off often, yet the physicians assured progress in his healing. The attorney's suite sat in the city center, housed in a charming historic structure. Antoine welcomed her into a roomy workspace with views of the central plaza. "Walk me through it," he suggested, guiding her to a plush chair. Simone detailed everything, from the phone and auto acquisitions to the roadside ordeal. Antoine paid close attention, interjecting with pointed queries now and then. "Got it," he concluded. "Let's dissect this. Who's on the lease for the flat?" "Me. It came from my grandma 3 years back." "Excellent. Housing won't be an issue. Jason's access as kin ends with the separation." "And the timeline for removing him." "Quick with solid evidence, and we've got plenty. Stranding a vulnerable child roadside. That's grave." Antoine fetched a pad and began jotting details. "Regarding the auto financing, were you listed as co-signer?" "Nope. Jason managed everything solo." "So the lender can't come after you, though we'll verify the paperwork. If he added your name without approval, that's fraud. Any way to address the debt?" "Definitely. Show no authorization, and the institution reevaluates. Sans co-signer, Jason could struggle with the installments." A strategy crystallized for Simone. Not spiteful or punitive, just equitable and by the book. Next steps. We'll collect records, medical proof of the boy's state, property deed, every finance doc. Then submit the dissolution filing and removal order. Time frame. With compelling reasons, about a month to 6 weeks, though urgency via proof of misconduct can speed it up. Antoine eyed her steadily. "Simone, you certain? Ending a marriage is weighty." "Completely. What they inflicted on Miles shattered any faith I had." "All right, we move forward." They set a follow-up for tomorrow, docs in hand. Simone headed back feeling unburdened at last. She was reclaiming control. Miles stirred and requested a meal. Simone prepared a gentle broth per medical guidance. He was pale and drained, yet showing hunger once more. "Mommy, when's Daddy Jason getting back?" Not sure, sweetie. He's buried in work and Grandma Ellie's visits are done. Why'd you want to know? I hope he doesn't. He's nasty. Simone caressed his hair. Kids sense deceit and harshness sharper than grown-ups ever do. Jason showed up late evening, face drawn and weary. He scarcely acknowledged her. At the table, he stayed quiet, dodging her gaze, talked to his wife. "How's Miles doing?" he eventually inquired. "Improving." The physician reported that the healing process was progressing smoothly. Simone had hoped he'd express regret over the previous day's events, or at least attempt some justification. Yet Jason stayed quiet, acting like it was all forgotten. "Jason, we have to discuss this." "Discuss what? What went down yesterday?" He glanced up, locking eyes with her in clear annoyance. "Mom said sorry. She mentioned getting anxious over the vehicle. She apologized directly to me. Actually, she asked me to pass it along to you." "So, what's your take on it?" Jason rose from the table and began gathering the plates. "I figure it's no big deal, not worth blowing up. The car's straight off the lot. Seriously? Mom's concerned." "Jason, she abandoned an ill kid on the interstate. She didn't abandon him. She merely got him out of the vehicle. It wasn't too distant from town, roughly 6 miles along the highway, with a child fresh out of surgery. So what? It's done and dusted. Miles is okay. No, it's not resolved for me. This is only the start. I'm starting divorce proceedings," she stated evenly. Jason halted, gripping the plates tightly. "What? You got it right the first time?" "Over yesterday, Simone. Have you lost your mind?" "I'm completely rational, and I refuse to share a home with a man who fails to shield his loved ones. I do defend them. I simply see no reason to clash with my mom over trivial stuff." "Trivial?" "Jason, your mom nearly created major issues for Miles. She nearly did, but she didn't. It all worked out." "No, it hasn't for me. It's ramping up." Jason set the plates in the basin and faced his spouse. "Simone, hold off on hasty moves. Give it some real consideration. I've already mulled it over thoroughly. What about the condo and the debts? I covered for Mom's auto loan. That's on you now. The condo's got zero connection to you." Jason's face drained of color. "So you're tossing me out. Spot on. And your living arrangements aren't my concern. Feel free to crash with your mom." They bickered at length, but Simone held firm. Jason attempted to convince her, intimidate her, vowed to reform, but she regarded him coolly, her thoughts already shifting to tomorrow's plans. The following day, as Jason headed to his job, Simone visited Antoine bearing the paperwork. The attorney scrutinized it all meticulously. "Spot on," he remarked. "The condo belongs solely to you. No contest there. The debt setup is straightforward, too. You're not listed as a co-signer on that agreement. Thus, the lender has no claim on your funds. No claim at all. Moreover, we could lodge a grievance against the institution for wrongly roping you into the surety deal. That might complicate things for Jason. Naturally, the lender would push for a swift reassessment of the loan conditions, and sans a surety, the rate would spike by 50%. Antoine set about drafting the court submissions. Simone endorsed the separation filing and the order to remove Jason from the premises. "Now comes the intriguing bit," the attorney noted. "Got any details on your mother-in-law's earnings or lifestyle? Why do you ask? When she secures financing, she declares a specific income. Though checkout clerks don't pull in big bucks, perhaps there's unreported cash flow." Simone pondered that. Indeed, how did Ellie afford the borrowings? A retail worker's pay hovers around $2,000 monthly, and the auto installment is $250 on top of her various outlays. "I'll check with a contact," she replied. Her neighbor toils at the identical grocery outlet. That evening, Simone rang Naomi and requested intel on Ellie's job. Her pal agreed to dig into the specifics. Jason returned home tardily, brimming with hostility. "You truly intend to boot me," he demanded at the threshold, "and deprive Miles of his dad. Miles has a natural father. Plus, you proved you'd side against your boy for your mom's sake." I didn't side against anybody. You stayed mute while your mom ditched a vulnerable child roadside. I had no clue her intent. You suspected and said nothing. That's known as aiding and abetting. Jason roamed the space, puffing cigarettes tensely. Then he paused and eyed his partner. All right, should you push for separation, I'll counter accordingly. Say, by seeking alimony for Miles. Simone smirked contemptuously. He's not your blood relative. You'd need formal adoption to pursue support. Too bad. It's past that point. Post-split, no judge would greenlight adoption sans maternal approval. Jason grasped his defeat. He held no claim to Miles, none to the condo, zilch in that dwelling. He swore, snatched his luggage, and departed for his mom's place. Simone experienced profound ease. At last, tranquility filled the home. Miles mended swiftly, tinkering with his building blocks and chuckling once more. Yet the real twist lay ahead. 2 weeks on, Simone dialed the grocery network's security line. Good morning. I'd like to flag some misconduct at a branch. I'm all ears. Branch 47. The clerk, Ellie, routinely pilfers items and money from the cash drawer. The supervisor, Mr. Reynolds, stands up for her. What grounds do you have for your concerns? I labor in the adjacent structure and frequent that shop. I've witnessed her slipping items into her purse without ringing them up on multiple occasions. Fellow workers mention the missing funds. Appreciate you sharing this. We'll look into it. I prefer to stay unidentified. Certainly your identity won't show up in any records. Simone ended the call feeling she'd done her part. Fairness needed to win out. She also lodged a formal grievance with the bank over wrongly adding her to the surety agreement. The lender responded swiftly, insisting Jason settle the full debt right away or secure another sponsor. Jason freaked out. He dialed Simone repeatedly, begging for mercy. Yet she turned him down. That's on you, she replied steadily. Handle it on your own. Ellie attempted to secure fresh financing to clear the prior balance, but lenders rejected her. A retail clerk's pay just didn't cut it. The inspection at the outlet kicked off without warning. Early one day, inspectors from corporate showed up and called for a full examination. Simone learned of it via Naomi, whose acquaintance was employed there. Picture the chaos, her pal recounted. They scrutinized every till, the stockroom, the paperwork, and uncovered deficits. By how much? More than $10,000 in currency and goods across the past 6 months. Plus, they let go of everyone implicated. Supervisor Reynolds got the boot. Your ex-mother-in-law lost her position as well. Word is, authorities could file accusations. Simone experienced a wave of contentment. Ellie was getting her comeuppance. Yet the real twist came a month afterward. That night, someone rapped on the entrance. Simone answered and spotted Jason and Ellie. They appeared unkempt and bewildered. Mind if we step inside? Jason inquired. Nope. Simone shot back. We have to discuss the situation. Mom got terminated. Folks claim she pilfered cash. It's false. She toiled diligently. Simone eyed Ellie. Her former in-law kept her gaze lowered. The old hostility had vanished. She can demonstrate that before a judge, Simone declared resolutely. Ellie, might I say sorry to Miles? Not anymore. I truly never intended harm. I simply panicked over the vehicle and they seized it, Jason explained with a nod. The lender wants the complete loan sum paid. We're short on cash. Too bad. Simone, would you consider backing us as surety? I'm no longer involved. The bank verified as much. Still, we're kin. Not anymore. The instant you abandoned my boy on the roadside, ties severed. And that evening, upon heading back to their studio flat, shock froze them at the sight. Simone got the details the following day from the neighbor. Can you fathom it? The elderly lady shared. They reached the doorway, and luggage sat there. Apparently, officials had removed them from the residence and swapped the security. How could that occur? Enforcement officers arrived with the eviction order. Your Jason pushed back, but after reviewing the papers, he realized resistance was futile. And their next stop, they settled for a budget-in room. No employment means no roof. Jason's factory wages barely covered basics. It wouldn't suffice for housing. Simone savored a subtle triumph. Righteousness had prevailed. Miles soon put Jason and Ellie out of mind. He focused on the fresh toy kit his mom procured. The kid crafted bots and dreamed up labels for them. Simone stayed occupied too. Her role brought steady earnings. Free from Jason's debt burdens, existence felt simpler. After 3 months, an elite global academy extended her a position. The compensation doubled, with perks and chances for overseas courses. Mom, does this make us wealthy? Miles wondered upon hearing of the gig. Not quite, kiddo, but we're secure. What about Dad Jason and Nana Ellie? Secure too. Nah, they're struggling presently. They own their choices. Absolutely, buddy. Folks answer for what they do. Miles agreed and dove back into his kit. He tackled an intricate spaceship replica. Simone gazed at her child and reflected on her bold move to reshape their world. These days, Miles matured amid integrity and equity, away from those eager to wound him. 6 months on, Simone chanced upon Jason and Ellie at the medical center. She brought Miles for a follow-up with the doctor regarding his surgical mark's recovery. Jason seemed years older in that span. Strands of silver threaded his hair, and weariness etched his features. He sat in the corridor beside his mom, awaiting the counselor's session. Ellie fared poorer. She relied on a walking stick and labored for breath. The fallout from dismissal and legal battles had obviously damaged her well-being. Miles noticed them initially. "Mom," he murmured, ducking behind her. "That's them." "Right, honey, no worries, we'll simply pass by." But Jason caught sight. He rose and advanced unsteadily. They approached her. Simone and Miles. Simone paused. "Hi, Jason. How are you and your son doing health-wise?" "We're all good. What about you?" Jason averted his eyes. "My mom is ill, her blood pressure's high, and her heart's weakening. I'm truly sorry, Simone. Could I visit Miles sometime?" Simone glanced at her child. The kid clutched her hand firmly and shook his head no. "I don't want to," Miles whispered. "You heard what he said," Simone told Jason. "But I was practically his dad. Dads don't abandon their kids." Jason started to respond, but Ellie tugged at his arm. "Jason, come on, they're paging us." They entered the doctor's room as Simone and Miles made their way to the specialist. "Mom, do you feel bad for them?" the child inquired while walking. "No, honey, I'm not glad about their troubles, but I don't feel sympathy either. They picked their road and we picked ours." "Yep, I believe we made the right choice." Miles bobbed his head and grinned. "I love how things are now." "So do I, darling." The specialist checked the boy and approved of the outcome. The wound had mended flawlessly without issues. "A robust, vigorous kid," the doctor noted. "Put that surgery out of your mind. Just lead an ordinary life." As they exited the facility, Simone sensed a weight lifted, a calm settling in. Their darkest days were over. Brighter times awaited. Miles skipped along next to her, excitedly chatting about the fresh robot he planned to assemble back home. "Guess what, Mom? I came up with a name for it." "What's that?" "Justice. It'll guard the innocent from the wicked." Simone beamed. Her boy was maturing with solid ideas of good and evil. Nothing mattered more. They boarded the bus and returned to their snug flat, a safe haven where harm couldn't reach them anymore, where they could relax, labor, nurture the child, and savor simple joys. Meanwhile, at that roadside inn on the city's edge, Jason and Ellie faced the consequences of their choices. Each person got their due. True fairness had prevailed. Enjoy the tale. Where in the world are you tuning in from? Drop a note in the comments. If the story resonated, show some love with a super thanks. It helps me create more tales just like this. Thanks a ton for your kind backing. Can't wait to read your thoughts on it. Check out the 2 fresh personal journeys displayed on screen. I really suggest them. Plenty more awaits on my page. Hit subscribe so you don't miss out. Catch you in the upcoming narrative. All my warmth and admiration.